If you struggle with snoring or sleep apnea, there are some everyday habits that you are doing that could be causing it or making it worse. You see, most people think that sleep apnea is something you can't even avoid, or you're just born into it, or you just get it because you're overweight. But the truth is, there are some simple day-to-day things that you can start doing to really improve if you have sleep apnea, or completely get rid of it. Or you can even prevent yourself from getting it if you don't have it right now. Now, this is really important because the way you sleep is so important for the health of the rest of your body. You see, everything is intertwined. And sleep apnea is linked with high blood pressure, heart disease, chronic stress, and not to mention just being tired all day. So make sure you stick around for the full video because there could be something on here that you're doing that you might not even realize is affecting your sleep. So the first everyday habit that's wrecking your sleep is mouth breathing. Yes, the way that you breathe can severely affect your sleep. And this makes sense because sleep apnea is literally a disruption in your breathing while you're sleeping. Now, in order for something to count as sleep apnea, you have to basically be choking for 10 seconds at a time, multiple times throughout the night. So what happens if you choke for 9 seconds? Then it does not count as sleep apnea. But that still sounds like a problem, right? Because if you're choking, that's something I would still want to address. You see, the issue isn't just sleep apnea. It's any sort of obstruction while you are breathing. And if you have any sort of obstruction while you're breathing, this creates chronic stress and chronic inflammation because your body's constantly fighting to take the next breath. And this can trigger sleep apnea down the road. So a lot of people think that they just get sleep apnea as they get older, but it's actually a progressive disease, meaning it gets worse over time. Now, how does mouth breathing relate to sleep apnea? Well, we have studies showing that people who breathe through their mouth are more likely to have sleep apnea. We also have studies that show that when people are switched from mouth breathers to nose breathers. Yes, there's ways of actually transitioning someone from mouth breathing to nose breathing, that their sleep apnea either went away or went down in severity significantly. Mouth breathing does a couple things. So the first is when your mouth is open, your tongue is not really touching the roof of the mouth. Now, ideally, our tongue should be touching against the roof of the mouth. Now, that's gonna be part of our next segment. But also what happens when your mouth is open is your jaw opens, and that basically helps constrict your airway. So that already is constricting your breathing. We already talked about the importance of not obstructing your breathing or obstructing your airway. So this is just one way that you're already doing it. But now if you go lie on your back and go to sleep, then your tongue is gonna start falling back because of gravity. And this is what can create that snoring sound, because as your tongue starts to fall back, that soft palate of yours starts to vibrate, and that creates a snoring sound, but that is a huge sign that your airway is obstructed. You should not be snoring. Snoring is a bad sign. Now, what also can happen with your tongue is your tongue can start to fall back in the back of your throat and completely cut off your breathing. This is what can trigger sleep apnea. And there's actually a physics explanation why this happens. So if you haven't heard of Bernoulli's principle, it's basically if you have a massive amount of air going through this huge hole, which would be your mouth, because your mouth hole is that massive amount of air, but then it's entering like a constricted space. This would be that constricted space from your jaw being open and your tongue falling back. Then that space creates a suction and it starts closing. So that's where Bernoulli's principle from physics, if you ever took physics class, plays into sleep apnea. Because when you take this massive inhale through your mouth, then it basically suctions your tongue back and helps close your airway. And that's what contributes to sleep apnea. This is also why bulldogs have such bad breathing problems, because the way that they were bred was unfortunately in this way where they have constricted jaws, and they also have this open mouth posture where they have so many respiratory issues. Now, this brings us to number 2, which kind of ties into number 1, which is poor tongue posture. Now, ideal mouth posture is where your lips are sealed, your tongue is touching the roof of the mouth, and your teeth are slightly touching. If someone grows up with this posture from an early age, they're going to be more likely to have wider, more forward-growing jaws, their airways are going to be more developed, and their teeth are going to be less crooked because their jaws are going to grow wider. Now, I talked a lot about this in my other videos, but part of the reason that your jaws grow in this direction when you have this posture is because your tongue touching the roof of the mouth is going to create a stimulus for your jaw to grow forward and wider. It's going to grow in the shape of your tongue. And when your tongue is in this position, it should kind of be like a suction, where not just the tip of your tongue, but also the middle and back of your tongue are basically suctioned up against the roof of the mouth. But if you grew up as a mouth breather, then you weren't trained to have your tongue up against the roof of the mouth. Your mouth is always going to be open and your tongue is always going to be down. If your tongue is up in the right position, it's pretty much impossible to breathe in and out of your mouth. That will resort to you having to breathe in and out of your nose, which is so much better for you. But you can literally train your tongue to start going up against the roof of the mouth. And there are some different tongue exercises that can help with this. Now, I made some other videos kind of talking about these different tongue exercises, so I'm going to put a couple links in the description below if you want to watch those. But I'll show you one of these exercises right now. This is my favorite one. Something you can do like while you're driving. It's best probably to do when no one else is around you because it can get kind of annoying. So all you do is you put your tongue up against the roof of the mouth in that proper position like I told you. And then you create a really wide smile, and then you're going to open your jaw while smiling with your tongue up against the roof of the mouth until your tongue falls off. It's going to create kind of a snapping sound. So it'll look kind of like this. I'd recommend doing that like 20 to 25 times, 2 times a day. If you do this, it not only strengthens your tongue muscles, but it also strengthens your neck muscles. And this is also a way to basically reverse that forward head posture and give yourself like a natural neck lift. You know, when people are always looking at that phone and their heads start to fall forward and they always have that posture, this is a way to help reverse that. Now, the third thing that I want to talk about that also ties into the first thing, the mouth breathing that I talked about, is sleeping on your back. We already talked about how if you sleep on your back and your mouth is open, your tongue is just flailing around, gravity and the Bernoulli's principle will help pull that tongue back and basically help close off your airway. So a simple fix would be, instead of sleeping on your back, would be to start sleeping on your side. You can also look into those beds that slightly tilt up. I know a lot of those really fancy beds have literally like a sleep apnea setting where it literally just tilts your body up a little bit so that way you're not lying completely on your back, and that way that gravity is not going to work completely against your tongue, pushing it back. Now, the next and the fourth thing that I want to talk about that also ties into mouth breathing, but really relates to why nose breathing is so much better, is over breathing in general. You see, most people's goal should be to breathe less air than they actually need. And the reason is your body will actually adjust and start breathing more efficiently. This is the same reason that people go to like Colorado or do high altitude training to train for a sporting event. You see, when you breathe too quickly, like when you breathe in and out of your mouth, then you start losing more CO2. Your CO2 is what you exhale. Many people think this is a waste product and you need to get rid of it, but that could not be more false. So your CO2 is just as important as your oxygen. And your CO2 is important for regulating your body's pH. So if you don't have enough CO2, then your body's not going to do a good job of regulating the pH. And what happens is, even if you intake oxygen, like if you take a big breath through your mouth, that oxygen still has to get delivered to all of your cells. Now, in order for that oxygen to actually get delivered to your cells, you need to have enough CO2 that's controlling the pH. If your pH is off because you don't have enough CO2, which is what happens when you breathe too quickly, then your cells are not going to receive that oxygen. And this is actually called the Bohr effect. So how can you fix this? Well, on top of working on that tongue posture, also focus on breathing in and out of your nose all day long. You can especially start by doing this at times where you are resting. Now, by resting, I mean times where you're not physically exercising. So like when you're sitting and working, or when you're watching TV or something like that. You can also try doing this when you're exercising too, but you want to do it until you reach like your exercise limit. So at some point you're going to have to probably resort to mouth breathing, and that's totally okay. But at times of rest, you should always be breathing through your nose. And what this does is it helps steady your breathing. So you're not breathing as quickly. Your body's not receiving as much oxygen at once, but it's still receiving enough. If you put, for example, a pulse oximeter on, which measures how much oxygen your lungs are actually getting, then you're still going to have a good amount of oxygen. The only difference is now you have more CO2, so now your cells can actually start to receive more of that oxygen. This isn't like a sleep apnea, like direct problem that it's causing, but it's kind of an indirect problem that comes from sleep apnea. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is GERD, or acid reflux. So a lot of times you can't even control your acid reflux, but there are a couple things that you can do. Now, why does acid reflux relate to sleep apnea? Well, it does a couple things. So when you have that acid that's going up, that's irritating your airways, that alone can worsen your sleep apnea. And that can also even cause the airway to start swelling up. So if you have GERD or acid reflux and you know you have it, make sure you talk to your doctor about it. Now, sometimes your dentist will notice this well before your doctor, and that's because we see some dental or mouth signs of GERD. And that's where we start to see all this acid breakdown on the back of all your teeth, and that is a typical sign of all that stomach acid going up into your esophagus and getting into your mouth and making your mouth super acidic. You can also try avoiding eating too late into the night. It's best to wait at least 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed. Now, the last active thing that you're doing that I want to talk about is alcohol. So if you don't drink alcohol, great. But if you do and you're drinking it right before bed, this is going to make your sleep a whole lot worse. Not only does it really affect the quality of your sleep, like how much REM sleep, etc. that you're getting and how many disruptions you're getting when you're sleeping, it also lowers your oxygen levels and increases your risk of snoring and getting sleep apnea. This is also why people snore a whole lot louder after they go out drinking. So a lot of these factors that I talked about are some things that you can actively address. I know like GERD, for example, is going to be a little bit harder if you actually have a medical condition. And if you're already talking to your doctor about it, that's great. But all the other things are things that you can actively start working on. And you can even watch some of the other videos I was talking about if you want to learn more about like training your tongue or breathing in general. Even if you have like nasal blockages, like a deviated septum or something like that, where you really struggle breathing in and out of your nose. Majority of the people that have a deviated septum can still train themselves to become nose breathers pretty easily. And I even made another video specifically on that topic, how to unblock and properly start breathing in and out of your nose. And I'm putting that video in the description below as well. Also, just in general, losing weight can help. For example, people who are obese have a higher risk of getting sleep apnea because their neck mass is so big and that can constrict the airway. But it's not just about obesity. Even bodybuilders have a higher risk of sleep apnea because their neck muscles are too thick. You could also have too small of a jaw, which is already constricting your airway, or you could have large tonsils and adenoids or other issues. In this case, it might be better to visit an ENT or ear, nose, and throat doctor to address this. But anyway, I hope you guys learned a little bit about what you can start doing to really improve your breathing while you're sleeping. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. What if I told you there's a new treatment that can fix cavities without any drilling? There's a new invention out there called Curodont that dentists are starting to use now that can actually fix early cavities without having to numb or do any drilling, and it only takes like a couple minutes. So make sure you watch till the end of this video because this can literally get